Okay, we are on now to adult nutrition. So something to take into consideration is that through the whole course of the semester, nutrition really has been applicable to adults. And the differences for children, obviously, is that they have shifting caloric intakes that are really dependent on the stage of development. Whereas for adults, our caloric intake is really dependent on our sex, our height, weight, age, and our activity factor. Now, of course, that applies to adults. Unfortunately, the majority of adults are not as active as younger people have the potential of being. But the determination of their caloric intake is also going to be individualized based off of that height, weight, sex, and age and activity factor. By nature, as we age, human beings, our metabolism does slow down. And that's largely related to less muscle mass because muscle mass is really what keeps uh, the body active in burning calories. Now, the thyroid by nature, metabolism will slow down. Women in particular, around the period of perimenopause, they will have a shift in hormones that will also reduce the utilization of calories. So, one of the most profound things we can do and keep in mind as we age is maintaining activity and maintaining muscle mass. This is one of the greatest gifts we could give ourselves, in addition, of course, to things like balanced diet, stress management, sleep, and laughter. All right, on the broad picture, when we take into consideration life expectancy, the number had been coming down since 2014. To us, it looks like a fraction, but the concern is after a decade of our life expectancy getting longer and longer, the amount of time that we project human beings to live, it was a shock to see this number go down. Finally, for 2018, it looks like the number may have stabilized and that it's no longer dropping. So that's a great thing to hear. But that's no guarantee because of when we have exposure to things like the COVID-19 virus, a type of influenza, or just the fact that we have an aging population. A lot of baby boomers are in their senior years. Causes of death, folks, the majority are related to health-related behaviors. Health-related behaviors are going to be things centric to diet, exercise, and alcohol and drug consumption. 20 to 30% is genetic based, so really not that much if you think about it. It's really, when we talked about nature versus nurture, it's really, the action. Our future is written by us. Our DNA has an idea of where we can go, but free will, what we decide to do, is really what makes that final decision. Barriers to life expectancy is going to, of course, be diseases, homicide, infections, infant mortality. I thought this was interesting, and I looked this up. And the infant mortality has a variety of possibilities. It could be septicemia of the baby's body from a bacterial infection. It could be a respiratory disease, perhaps because they're premature. It could be sudden infant death syndrome. There's a myriad of reasons why we actually in the United States have a high infant mortality in comparison to other developed nations. It's kind of awkward, but it is there. If you go back 120 years plus to 1900, the average life expectancy, folks, was 47 years. And that was really largely due to barriers in society, things like tuberculosis, the fact that infectious diseases passed very quickly between people. We had a lot of people in the United States who were living in big cities like New York City and tenement housing in very close proximity, families living together, supporting each other. And in situations like this, diseases have the ability to pass like wildfire from one person to the next. This is why herd immunity became so darn important and such a powerful breakthrough. Once we figured out how to immunize people, and we were able to immunize the vast majority, preferably the goal is all people, we were able to eliminate diseases, especially childhood diseases like polio. But unfortunately, as people choose not to immunize these days, or they come from countries where they have not been immunized, it spreads, reintroduces these diseases to our country and helps spread them. So this is an incredible concern because the failure to immunize has the ability to actually decrease our life expectancy and increase the death rates. For human lifespan, folks, what that means is the longest known recorded person in modern history lived to be 125 years. Once we have one person living to 125, that means the human body has the ability to live that long. Now, of course, we have to take into consideration all the possible variables that prevent the vast majority of us from living that long. And one of the conundrums is those variables, folks, sometimes start from childhood. All right, dietary intake. As I said before, it is pretty darn consistent through the life stages. You'll notice, though, for males between the ages of 19 and 30, there is a recommended increase in the amount of protein, 56 grams. Yeah, I said 56, folks. For those of you who are eating 110 grams a day, you're really kind of overdoing it there, but okay, to each his own. The recommended amount of protein for your average male who is expected to be active with muscle mass is 56 grams a day. We can go higher, but as long as we go higher, it cannot upset the balance with our carbohydrates and our necessary fats. Otherwise, you'll notice all the way through to the senior years, the recommended protein, carbohydrates, and fats, when we talk about percentage, are the same. Even when we want to limit saturated fat to less than 10%, it stays the same through the life stages. Added sugars, no nutritional value. Okay, there you go. Less than 10% of our caloric intake. Same rules for fiber. 14 grams per 1,000 calorie intake. It's kind of a cool, simple, straightforward thing. All right, for seniors, energy needs. Their metabolism slows down, which means, unfortunately, this also reduces a little bit of their appetite. Because why? Muscle mass promotes a greater appetite when we have more burning calories. There is less physical activity among seniors, which means this then, kind of like the dog chasing its tail, it further contributes to a reduced metabolism. Their protein needs, to some degree, reduce because of sarcopenia. They don't have as much muscle mass. The muscle mass, if you don't use it, don't keep building it, will naturally break down. This starts at around the age of 40, and with each decade, it accelerates. We start to break down our muscle mass more quickly. Yes, puppy. What I mean by that is that, you know, when you're in your 20s, if you don't work out for a few weeks, no harm, no foul, you may feel it a little bit, but nothing major. But as each decade passes, that time frame that you can take off and not work out without feeling it gets smaller and smaller. With the reduction of muscle mass, folks, this also reduces a person's strength, their independence for daily living activities, and it also reduces the support provided by the bones in helping prevent osteoporosis. When a person reduces muscle mass and they reduce protein, they also have less building material to be able to replace that muscle mass. So if you look at the two slides on the right, the top one reminds me of a ham steak. Excuse me. And that would be a person who has a lot of muscle mass on their leg, really viable muscle mass. The bottom image I like to think of as like prosciutto ham. Now it is riddled with fat. This is a great example of two possibilities, which are one and the same in the end. Sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass due to aging, but it also is a great example of normal weight obesity, where the vast majority of the leg is fat and very little of it is muscle mass. Um, when seniors reduce the variety in their diet, especially of whole grains, and they opt for simpler, easier processed foods to eat, man, I gotta tell you, seniors and Danishes and coffee, they seem to go hand in hand. But that increase in refined flours, folks, means that there's no dietary fiber. The decrease in fresh frozen vegetable consumption, again, reduces the amount of fiber, dietary fiber in the diet, which then promotes constipation. In addition, excuse me, seniors tend to reduce their amount of fluid intake from water, which further promotes constipation. And without that good soluble fiber to provide structure in the intestinal tract, the intestines are not as muscular and strong in performing peristalsis, which means constipation starts coming from both angles, the dietary choices and the laxity of the intestinal muscles. As people age, when they carry a heavier body mass, they tend to put more pressure on the bones and the joints and develop osteoarthritis, which inhibits them from exercising, making, of course, the situation worse for things like sarcopenia and reduced metabolism. What they really want to do is maintain a diet rich in omega-3 fatty acids, especially EPA from your fish, monounsaturated fatty acids from avocado and olive oil, to help manage arthritis, especially rheumatoid arthritis. Folks, the game plan with arthritis is you got to keep moving it to reduce the pain. Gout is often compounded over time, accompanied by insulin resistance, and is made worse by foods like coffee, milk, alcohol, fructose, especially fruit juice, and red meats and seafood. You know, I honestly do not know if this is a typo as to why it says vitamin C versus beer. That really shouldn't be there. That's awkward. Okay, let's ignore that. The optimal meal plan for seniors, one, because of the slower metabolism, and two, because of the increased likelihood of constipation, is we really want them to reduce their quantities, to have smaller portions, and instead eat 5 to 6 small meals a day. This will be kinder to their digestive system. It will give them more consistent energy without promoting weight gain. We want to make sure that those 5 to 6 meals are nutrient dense. We really need to eliminate the energy dense, empty calorie foods. Now, I'm not saying a senior can't have, oh my gosh, my dog is howling. I'm not saying seniors can't have can't have ice cream. But we really, like all people, we need to focus on those nutrient-dense food. And then, of course, to make sure they're texture-friendly, because some seniors, actually many, have dentures, and those dentures may be ill-fitting or uncomfortable. So we want to make sure that the foods are a texture that's appropriate. We don't want to be giving them things like beef jerky that's really chewy. And that's why some foods are more favorable with seniors, like soups, cottage cheese, and we can make a really hearty stew, plant-based with beans and lentils and vegetables that is a softer texture but gives them a variety of nutrients supportive of their health. All right, so folks, as a person ages, there are shifts in the body. First of all, vitamin D production is not as powerful for seniors. Secondly, due to conditions like atrophic gastritis, inflammation of the stomach, hypochlorhydria, this is low HCl production, and a reduction in intrinsic factor can impact the body's ability to extract B12 from protein foods and deliver it to the intestinal tract for absorption. Also, macular degeneration, which is more prevalent in people with blue eyes and green eyes, but can be present for all people, as are cataracts. This impacts a person's ability to see, their vision, their acuity, and balance between direct vision and peripheral vision. There's a lot of research on this, and they've been looking at using supplements to see if they make a difference. And so far, the results are inconclusive. We can't seem to prevent these diseases, but it appears that good nutrition, a variety dense in phytonutrients that are your antioxidants, and a broad spectrum of micronutrients helps slow down the progression of these eye-related diseases. For seniors who oftentimes reduce their amount of fluid intake from water due to things like incontinence or a failure to pay attention to their hydration status, this will result in confusion. And unfortunately, oftentimes with seniors, people will misinterpret that as senile dementia. I have a great example where my friend Marcy got a call from her mother's neighbor saying her mother was acting erratic, very strange. And Marcy went to visit her mom, and her mother was, pretty much on the crazy side and had all the classic symptoms of having dementia. However, Marcy, being the wonderful daughter that she was, chose to investigate further, and she found a variety of things. Number one, different doctors were prescribing her mother a multitude of different medications. So we have something called contraindication, where the medications clash with each other. And in addition, she also found that her mother was severely dehydrated. She stopped all the medications, reached out to the doctors to sort things out, and started focusing on hydrating her mother, and her mother returned to normal. So folks, sometimes the crazy in us just might be dehydration. What are the golden rules about hydrating seniors? We drink water with them. We don't just give it to a person and say, hey, drink this. We need to sit down and drink it with them, because this is an example of monkey see, monkey do. Due to that reduction in hydrochloric acid and reduced appetite, sometimes due to constipation, discomfort in the intestinal tract, or the increase in antacids, which are going to be calcium, magnesium based, and blood thinning medications, seniors can become low in iron. So it is important to really be present to all medications they're eating, to ensure that if they're not on top of their meals, to create a meal plan for them, so that they are more aware of what they need to eat, so that they have accountability, to communicate effectively with doctors, and to keep a log of all medications. If you have seniors in your family, keep a copy of all the medications, the quantity they take, and the purpose of the medication in your phone. You can write it out on a piece of paper and then take a picture of it, and so that every family member has a copy of this. It's great for emergency reasons. It's great so that everyone's on the same page and understanding what they need to be taking and when. Other things to take into consideration is that as seniors have disordered eating patterns and reduce dietary variety, this will decrease their access to zinc. In addition, some medications interfere with zinc in the body and cause it to discharge. This then will interfere with their appetite and their sense of taste, which will further reduce their desire to eat. Unfortunately, as we age, calcium absorption reduces. And for this reason, then, any calcium that they take in actually has to be increased. So rather than 1,000 milligrams a day, they need to be taking in 1,300 milligrams a day. As people age, some people start to experience greater incidences of lactose intolerance, and that's where utilizing foods like kefir, yogurt rich in probiotics, soy milk are great alternatives. In addition, as I said, there's a time and a place for supplements. And in the case of seniors, when there really is the challenge of them eating a variety of foods and eating consistently, then multi-nutrient supplements will have a role here. But the important thing we want to consider is making sure that it is a quality supplement. And that's where we really want to use a company like Consumer Lab to make sure. As to the status of the human body, we have an immune system to protect us, and inflammation is a form of protection. But when the body's out of balance, that inflammation can also become an irritant, and that becomes kind of that frenemy. It's a friend to protect us, but at the same time, it attacks us. And pneumonia. Folks, when seniors get sick and they lay in bed, they have the potential of a buildup of fluid in their lungs, pneumonia, and as they lie in bed, sick, not moving, low nutrition, low energy, they will start to develop pressure ulcers, which are bed sores. And with the poor nutrition, they accelerate in development in the skin. All right, physical changes that from the aging experience that will influence our nutritional intake. This is just a really great page for you to review, please. So as to senior safety, things that we need to take into consideration. First of all, pregnant women, small children, and seniors, in addition to immune-compromised people, are more at risk to foodborne pathogens. This means the delivery of infections via foods, things like Salmonella, Listeria, E. coli, norovirus. Also, there are greater concerns that because they take multiple medications, they may confuse these, mix them up, take the wrong ones multiple times, or not take them at all. And that's why it's really a great idea to set up a plan. Everybody be aware of what they take. Utilize things like those little pill boxes where you break them up into each day. Have a calendar handy so they can check off the day so they're aware of what day it is. Because when you don't have consistent structure in place, we lose concept of time. We start to disengage from knowing, if today is Sunday or Monday or Friday. Other things to take into consideration is that seniors, part of an older culture and cultural habits and free time, may have a tendency to abuse alcohol. And that overconsumption of alcohol will not only interfere with medications, but also interfere with their nutritional status. Obstacles that can get in the way of their nutrition, folks, could be things like their wrists. When we fall, we often put our hand down first, which means they can have broken wrists. Those broken wrists, folks, good luck trying to pick up a heavy pot or opening a can with a can opener. They are single-handed and they already lack a lot of muscle mass. So this means that if they're feeding off of canned foods, they are accessing no nutrition when they don't have that ability to utilize one of their hands. Mobility, the ability to get around. For seniors, if they're not able to drive or walk distances, to go from the parking lot through the grocery store. Money. Finances are huge. Many seniors live off of fixed incomes, and depending on their prior financial status, they may have abundant income or they may have very little. This is why when the economy took a really negative turn about 10 years ago, if you've been going to Disneyland, you would have noticed there was a surge of people in their 80s and 70s working at Disneyland, because their fixed incomes could not support them here in Southern California to cover their housing costs and their food costs, in addition to any extras that they would need, like, oh my gosh, can you imagine? Heat, water, electricity. All right, dentures. When dentures are ill-fitting, this will interfere with their ability to eat foods, to chew effectively without pain. Oftentimes, seniors don't want to pay those heavy medical bills to go back to the doctor and have the dentures redone. And then, of course, when seniors, due to the age of life, folks, when they start losing their spouses, depression kicks in. You know, maybe they were used to always cooking for their spouse and now they have no one to cook for. Or maybe their spouse always cooked for them and they have no one to look after them. In addition to this, statistically, men typically do not live much longer than the loss of their wife. So that's an influencing factor also to take into consideration. There are programs to support our seniors, Supplemental Nutrition Access Program, Meals on Wheels, great program that delivers food to seniors, people who are housebound. You know, sometimes it's something as simple as a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and other times it might be a hot meal. But if you're ever looking for a volunteer opportunity, this is a great one to reach out to our elders. And then, of course, church organizations for communities are oftentimes set up to support their constituents. All right, Alzheimer's is an incredibly hot topic, something that they've been exploring for some time now, trying to understand how do we mitigate its effects, how do we prevent it? And, you know, we don't have a lot of really good answers so far, but things to take into consideration. That one, providing the body all the nutrients it needs to be most functional. That's the diet rich in the balanced plate foods of vegetables, fruits, dietary rich fiber, low fat dairies, fish, especially cold, deep water, rich in omega-3 fatty acid, and eating lean meats on occasion. All right. We want people to reduce the consumption of added sugars, the overconsumption of carbohydrates that can promote triglycerides and saturated fat, because there's questions that these may contribute to the blood plaque and the amyloid tangles in the brain. If they are overweight, they should focus on losing weight to achieve a more, normal body weight zone where there's a reduction of associated comorbidities accompanying diseases. Or if they are underweight, this means that they may need to gain a little weight. But the intention is not to gain excess weight. To focus on exercise, folks, 30 to 60 minutes a day. Water aerobics, swimming, great opportunities for seniors. Walking, casual biking, keeping moving, building gentle muscle mass, all incredibly powerful, which also stimulates appetite. Making sure that they keep blood pressure in control through lifestyle activities and diet. Our goal, of course, is to get people off medication, but if necessary, then let's work with it, but with weight control, exercise, and good nutrition. And staying mentally and socially active does seem to have a very powerful component. This is the beauty of universities have emeritus programs for seniors to participate in education or to be socially active at senior centers, or even participating in personal activities like crossword puzzles, word search, and Sudoku. All fantastic. Other things that we're looking at is the possibility of getting enough sleep, resting so the brain can regenerate itself, repair the body, increasing consumption of seafood, in particular wild salmon and berries, the berries because of the phytonutrients, making sure that they get enough vitamin D, because there is that question that with reduction in vitamin D production in the body, and that vitamin D appears to have a relationship with all aspects of the body, that it might be a part of the equation of Alzheimer's. And strangely enough, consume more caffeine. In particular, that's black coffee, because there are some questions that maybe the tannins in coffee help with the tannins in the brain. You never know. All right, predictors of malnutrition in the elderly, folks. Determine, an excellent screening tool for seniors. I strongly encourage you, yes, see that red dot? Strongly encourage you to review this page and understand it, please. Nutrient concerns in aging. This is for you to review. Again, for you to review. And then lastly, I want to tell you about a few friends. I keep emphasizing to you the importance of having a vision, knowing where you want to go, what you want your life to look like later, in your later years. Because folks, you've got to start designing that. You've got to design what your end game is going to look like so that you start living into your future. You don't want to wake up one day and decide that's where you want to be. You want to start building slowly and gently. It's like putting away pennies for your retirement. Well, in this case, it's building small, simple habits to promote a higher quality life later. So Catherine is a great example. She is 74 years now. Highly active. She loves to go on traveling vacations where she's going to do a lot of hiking, kayaking, whatever it involves. She wants to be moving. She likes going out with her girlfriends because they're as active as her. She's a little Southern belle, and she is such a hot ticket that charming man of hers is, I think, 10, 15 years younger than her. And he was just like, woo, hot mama. Seized her up in a heartbeat because, folks, age does not define us. Attitude, health, and activity is really what defines us. Ramona is absolutely amazing. She is now 78 years old. Ramona actually looks after people with dementia. So yeah, look at the muscles on that woman. She is buff because she is lifting people constantly out of the bathtub, out of their wheelchairs, out of bed. She's got to be strong. When they have dementia and they become physically violent, she has to be able to restrain them, contain them. Ramona loves to climb mountains. She has been to Switzerland. She's been to Mount Everest. Her next goal is to do Mount Kilimanjaro. She is just waiting for her opportunity. She's so cute in her activities. She waits for no one. She keeps moving. As a matter of fact, she told me recently she had to break up with her boyfriend because he was a slug. He did nothing but sit around on the sofa. That is not Ramona's speed. Herb is 78 years old. His form of activity is not as extreme as climbing mountains or going on vacations with the girlfriends. No, but Herb likes to maintain activity in everyday life. So he just keeps moving. Simple things, folks. This is more like our blue zone people of the world who live the longest. Walking, staying active, gardening, swimming, gentle biking on trails. Nothing crazy, but he stays active, he stays outdoors, he keeps moving, he is strong, healthy, and happy. So my question is, who are you going to be? Who do you want to learn from and model yourself after? I challenge you to find someone, whether it is a person that you researched who's historical, or in your neighborhood, or your family, or someone that you find online. Whatever it is, it's a starting point. I will tell you that my grandmother, I had two grandmothers, folks. One of them loved to death, always worked in her garden after she retired, but she never really did exercise for the life of her. That was the only thing she did, which means when we took her out to places, she would shuffle. She wasn't used to walking anywhere other than house to garden, and that was it. And so she was very limited in life. We took her to Italy, and she spent the whole time in the car. And when we were in Venice, the whole time in the apartment. It was really unfortunate. I know from watching this, as much as I love her, I did not want to grow up to be like her. My other grandmother, on the other hand, they're both passed away, by the way, was absolutely amazing. She was deaf since the age of 2. As a young person, she grew up playing basketball, swimming, playing tennis. She was incredibly active. She had a cabin at the beach in Oregon and swam every summer in the ocean. She kept swimming all the way through her 80s in the local swimming pool. She traveled around the world multiple times on walking trips. She was absolutely unstoppable until the end when the cancer moved to her brain when she was, oh my gosh, 98 or 99. The woman was incredibly active and made no excuses in life. I got really clear and complete as an adult that she's the one I want to grow up and be like. I want to be the woman traveling the world. I want to be the woman who is forever active. I want to be unstoppable. Know who you want to be. It is the power and the resilience in you to accomplish the things in life that you want to set out to do.